Yeah, well, thanks for having me, everybody. It's good to be here with y'all. Finally, kind of, sort of. Um, but hopefully we can do this in person soon, right? Let's all keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, last year, it's still a little bit of a blur to us all. I think it's one of those things that we're super excited to be in spring ball right now. I mean, it's really where you get a chance to develop the guys and get them really understanding the details of what you're trying to do. We got to install quite a bit of the defense last season. We had to cut it down some because of just because of the situation it was, and it is what it is, right? And so now we're trying to say, okay, we can go back and double back, and really we attacked it in kind of a cool way as we went through. We started off saying, okay, hey, we got a little bit of time, during the weight room time that we could meet with the guys, so we took that and we really took it on an NFL model of, hey, here's phase one. Let's reinstall, let's revisit. Hey, here's some of the things that each player, and we broke it down by player, hey, here's some of the things you did really good, and here's some of the things you need to work on. So they had an idea when they had that time and when they could do that extra stuff during the weight room that they could work on a skill that they had. And then we started phase two, which was really, hey, now we got to be on the field with the guys a little bit, and the weight staff gave us some time from their hours, and then we could start to go through and say, okay, hey, we can start installing defenses again. So really, when we started spring ball, it was the opportunity. So the third chance we had this spring to reinstall again. So now you're talking, really we had a Zoom install, and then we had season and it was real, and then we had a chance to do it, more this spring, already 3 times than we did even before we got there. So that's the cool part, and really, the great thing we're looking at is the guys are starting to learn the other parts, not just what do I do. Some of it's like, hey, the first thing you do is memorize, what am I trying to do here? But hey, how do you want me to do it? What's the techniques you want me to use? Where are my eyes? Where do you want my hands? How do I make this break? How do I play this block? How do I do those things? And the why. Why am I doing it? Why is this part important to the defense? Because that's the small things that sometimes we were lacking last year is the technique and fundamentals, and then how it affected everybody else around me. So it's cool to be going through that stuff.
Hey, Scottie, thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it. Hey, like you said, every spring there's a shortage somewhere just because of the numbers. You usually don't have freshmen coming in and the seniors have left and everything. But have you ever had a spring like this where you are really anticipating guys who have not arrived yet to have important roles immediately? I know at Kansas State in the past they had a lot with junior colleges. I don't know if that was the case when you were there, but have you ever had it like this before in the spring where, like you said, you're keeping places warm in anticipation of guys coming in and making a difference? What's that like?
Sure, I think that it's I think everywhere has that spot. I mean, you might think that, hey, this guy we're hoping, and it's the same questions. I mean, it's the same as you lose a few guys to the league here or there. You have some of those things, and yeah, I think every spring you go in with anxiety. Unless you're it takes a really special situation to not. And even with the guys on your team, sometimes you're like, okay, we have these 2 young guys who haven't played much, and they're going to need to step up and become starters. And I think that's the same anxiety as you do when you're getting a junior college transfer or with the new transfer portal, the new transfers, and it's different. And yes, you've been around where you'd say, listen, there's a deficiency here. And so when you look at it, you say, okay, if there's a deficiency at a spot, okay, backup plans. You know what I mean? And listen, let's be real. We've all got good at those this last year. Hey, what happens if they don't start, or what happens if they cancel it and they do, all those kind of things. So you do as a guy, you have to plan for that, and you have to say, okay. But I think that it's normal to go in with 1 or 2 big question marks. Maybe we have more than that, or we're expecting more guys to come in. But if we can look around and say, listen, we got, we can step on the field tomorrow and say, okay, we can put a starting 11 out there, and okay, we're in good shape. Now, can we put out the next 11? Well, we're still going to need to do some work on that. Hopefully we get some guys in that are going to fill that and add to the competition and raise everybody's bar, or even maybe take some of those jobs. I mean, that's okay. And I think that's more what you always want. I think in this day and age, high school players are becoming better in junior college, and with the transfer market, I think that the new norm is going to be that way with the transfer market, where you got to say a chance that you might even say, hey, we got a starter coming back at a spot, but we got this guy off the transfer, or we got a junior college guy, or we got a really good high school kid, and we're really recruiting to replace all the guys on our team every year. That's really the goal. And hopefully you can make that the new norm where guys are, even though there's not a body in the room with them during spring, well, he can already feel that pressure because when that steps on campus, now it's a new thing. And hopefully we're getting to the point where, because that's what you're always trying to do. You're trying to out recruit the guys you have, and that's what you want it to be like all the time.
All right, I know you don't have a full slate on defense right now, but what were your impressions of this scrimmage yesterday, and what areas did you see improvements compared to the first scrimmage?
We got the ball more. That was the good thing. We got the ball a few times, and that's always good to see. I know that it's probably opposite. It's a zero-sum game. So the offense is probably meant about that. We did a better job with our communication, just being able to talk and talk through things. Our alignment was a little bit better. With our urgency, I'm saying, getting guys fast, getting alignment so we could talk and communicate. And I felt like, our pass rush when we got into those situations was pretty good. And that's some of the thing going back to, hey, yes, we did bring in some guys that add extra rushers, and we can move some guys around and get into some different speed groups and put different people on the field. So that was cool. Things we need to work on still. Some of it's us as coaches too. You know what I mean? We had a couple times where we had substitution errors. You know what I mean? There was incomplete. Hey, we're running one group on the field because we're trying to play more guys up front, like we were talking about earlier, and we're not getting the guys off in time, and the offense is going fast, and we have to be ready for that. We have to do a better job with that as coaches. We had a couple lack of discipline things. You know what I mean? Like just something. You get the guys geared up. Hey, we're rushing, and then we jump. You know what I mean? And we had the ability to take away. We didn't get called on one, but we had the ability to take away one of those takeaways because we were undisciplined with that. So there's still those things that we need to clean up. You know what I mean? And I think we're getting better. It's just fun to see when the guys go out there, and it's fun to show them, hey, when we're using these fundamentals, when we're triggering, when we understand leverage, when we understand how to pinch a ball carrier in open space, or we understand how to stay on a block and keep our hat in the crack and contact balance and those things, you can show them, hey, here's a great example, and it's happening more often. And here's another poor example, and it's happening less often. And those are the things that you see that excites you about the scrimmage.
One more thing is, are there any players you can name that may have been outside of the playing group that so far in spring practice that you could mention that have broken through that door a little bit, that are functional now? Any players you could mention?
Sure. I mean, I think I already mentioned Jeff Petrosky. He's a guy that's really developed. I know that he played very little last year, played on some special teams and did some stuff like that. And he's really coming along as a defensive end. Maverick Hansen is a guy who, I don't know how many reps he got last year, but he sprinkled in some, and he's a really strong dude that can do some things. Cal Halliday made some really good plays yesterday, and that was great to see a young dude being able to play linebacker and run through and make some plays that you go, wow, here's a young guy that's growing up. KB Brooks is doing a good job. He was out there playing some nickel, and let me think who else. The Grosses and the Gerbs and the X's and all them dudes. Another guy that's been doing a good job this spring for us and had a good break, got on course and did a good job in the middle field was Darius Snow. He did some decent things yesterday too. So that's kind of exciting to see because of the reps and the opportunities these guys have. Those kind of guys are growing for us, and doing a good job.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Next question, we'll go to Paul from Spartan Mag.
Hey, Scottie, thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask you about four-man pressure and if you guys are getting that on a more consistent basis this spring. Mel talked about wanting to get more of that, and I just kind of wanted to ask you about just defensive ends overall. It seems like you've got a lot of guys that can stop the run, maybe not some like real 10-sack type edge threats. Can you just talk about the development of that D-line and what you're seeing? Sure.
That's a good question. Well, right now, to start off with the first one, it's always a tough deal to tell, is because you're going against the same guys every day and they're starting to learn each other a little bit. You know what I mean? But I do feel like our rush has gotten some better, and some of the things are like we were talking about substitution errors. You're allowed to keep guys more fresh because you do have that depth now. You're allowed to keep guys, and move guys around, move a guy inside if you can rush there. Or, hey, let's try this guy inside because it's spring ball and do all that kind of stuff. And I feel like our rush after after yesterday, it feels like it's gotten better. You know what I mean? Is there total data? You know, you can't tell yet, you know, but we're learning to rush together as a group. And I think that was some of the deal last year is, you know, it's not so much always me beating you one-on-one. It's me beating you one-on-one, and I took this path to it so we understand the net of the quarterback and how to, you know, our different rush lanes. And I think that that's been developing, you know, getting a little bit better over time. You know, there's time, and when we get into those situations, the second part of that is the situational ball of it. You know, if you get into a situation where you say, listen, hey, we know it's third down, we know they're going to throw, we know we get to some 2 minutes, you get up on a team, or you put them in situational ball where you say, hey, they have to play from behind. I think that yes, the guys there at defensive end have done a good job developing, and the inside guys are understanding the rush lanes and doing all that stuff together. And I think that we've been doing a much better job with that, especially in situational ball. Now, as the second part of your question was,
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the edge rushers. You
sure.
know, I know that Drew Jordan's been mentioned as a guy that can get after quarterback. He hasn't put up big numbers sack wise. I wonder if he's been able to help, and just
Sure.
overall development of edge guys.
Yeah, you know, he's done a good job, you know, just coming in and giving a new little sprinkle to it, you know what I mean, which allows you to put a guy like Beasley inside of some of the rushes. You know, I think Kuba's always a guy that you can, you know, get cranked up and hopefully get healthy, and he's been healthier this spring, which has been good because you can start him to see some of the stuff come around what he's been doing. We do have some young guys like Petro's done a good job. Fletch is still developing some of his rush stuff, which is outstanding. You know, a guy like Avery Dunn is a long dude who's gained a bunch of weight and can play some of the run stuff now. And we're hoping that he continues to develop because he does have a great, tremendous get off, and he can get the edge on a lot of guys. And then with the addition of Brandon Wright, I mean, you got a guy who is a running back, you know, I mean, that dude can fly, and we're trying to work out the kinks on, you know, because it's a whole new ball game for him, you know, that he's trying to process through, and he's getting closer. I know we made the switch and messed around with him a little bit last year, but really, you know, it's a different story when you have time to develop a guy. So I think that there's some bodies there that give us an ability to get edge rush, and that's really a big part of what we need to do. And I think we're starting to understand the second part of it is this. There's times on first and second down when we can go, you know, and when we're playing. So I think that when we go back to the original deal of, hey, it's great to have time to spend with these guys to learn the how and the why, then that pressure can start to show up a little bit more on first and second down, because they understand when they can take a shot. They can understand when they can risk. They understand what defenses that we can get off the ball and go, because really when you're playing first and second down or it's 3rd and 1, you know, that sometimes it's hard to get a rush when you're just playing base fundamentals, you know, but I think that that's coming to the other parts to it.
I'm going to try to get to everybody. So I'm going to go to Rico Cooney with Spartan Mag. Rico.
Hey, Scotty, good afternoon. Hey, talking about specifics, can you maybe give me a little more in-depth info with Noah? I mean, I'm guessing that because, you know, he's an upperclassman, he's been pushed into more of a prominent role, both on and off the field. And I was wondering if you could address, you know, his improvements on the field and then his improvements off the field as a leader. Sure.
Thanks. You know, he's one of those guys that I think that, you know, he understands the, I think there's some guys who come in and take this a little bit like the military, you know what I mean? You come in as a young dude and you kind of say, okay, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to let the upperclassmen tell me what to do. You know what I mean? And then next year they say, okay, I'm a little bit older and I'm a little bit, hey, I got a stripe now. Okay. I'm a little bit, you know what I mean? And then now I got a little, and I think that some guys take that approach, which is unneeded. You can have great leaders no matter how old you are, you know what I mean? But I think that was when he started off kind of seeing that. And as he grows, he's like one of those guys that says, okay, here. But I think that really he's came about, okay, now I've started, I've played, I feel like I'm allowed to speak now. I think that that's some of what gave him, like, in his own mind, you know what I mean? In his own mind, it's allowed him to do some of those things. And it's cool when you see him, because he doesn't, like I said, he's not a big ass chewer. He's not a big guy that's gonna get after people, but he's gonna be able to grab dudes, and he kind of does it in in a unique way. You know what I mean? He'll grab a guy and kind of talk to him and go over here, or go say something to dude over here, or go do and that's what's cool, is to see that starting to develop in him, where he can start to say those things, you know, even in unit meetings and things, you know what I mean? We talk about how on the field or off the field, you know, volume reflects confidence, you know, and when you ask a question, here's a guy that will speak and say it. And we talk about, even if you're wrong, be loud about it. You know what I mean? Because then someone can make you right? Be loud and wrong, so that everybody, okay, then so, and he's getting to that point where he's starting, you see him happen in unit meetings or position meetings or whatever the case is, where he's answering, he's getting to be confident with it, because he understands the how and the why, and he's starting to get there. So I think that gives him, you know, there are those who are just walk in and they can lead anything, anytime, you know, but there are those who need that kind of self improvement to get there. And I think that he's at that spot where he's starting to be there, you know, and it's cool. And we're encouraging him to do it even more, you know, speak up whenever you see something, you know, like we had, you know, Beasley, who's another guy, who's an old guy, you know, jumps off sides yesterday in a scrimmage, and the first guy to go grab him is Noah Harvey. And you say, huh, that's sweet. That's sweet. Cause you and I both know, and I think we all know, there's some guys on a team that, you know, when we yell them, it's different. You know, when a peer grabs a guy, then they're like, yeah, you know what, that I understand, that's really hurting the team. And those are the things that you see that are developing that are pretty cool.
Just quick thought, did you talk to him about, you know, what you might want his role to be? Or is he naturally gravitated towards it?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I think you as a coach, you can see certain guys as you go through, and as a position coach and a head coach and a coordinator, you try to grab those guys every once in a while and just talk to them about, hey man, there's an opportunity right there. Did you see it? You missed it, right? Okay, next time that happens, let's do it. Or hey, you can do this anytime you want. Or hey, how about this? You know what I mean? And you do try to you try to encourage that, because those are the things that you want. You know what I mean? You want guys on a team who run the show and go. You know. So I think it's a combination. I think guys have to be ready, but I think you have to encourage them too, because it's unnatural. It's unnatural. It is an unnatural thing. I think that when you sit down and you get a chance to really study cut-ups and people, you know, there's, you know, things repetitively that you might have noted and said, hey, and as you're coaching a guy, but in the heat of the battle, you might say, okay, hey, we need to work on this a little bit, but you don't really have the time to fix, you know, individual problems. And that's, during the season, you know, you kind of put a Band-Aid on it the best you can, you know, because it is in a fire. But, you know, when you have some time and you say, hey, listen, you know, whatever, you pick an individual. Hey, here's one skill that we really need to get good at. And then you can tell them to work on that, teach them how to work on it, and then you can work with them on it. That one skill is going to improve what the overall look of the defense is at any time, you know, and there was, sure, every individual person had some of those things, you know what I mean? The defense as a whole, you start to look at and you say, hey, how can we use guys in a different sort of way, or how else can we do those stuff as we learn the personnel? So, you know, we're hoping to continue to keep that going the rest of the spring. You know, we got 5 left, so hopefully we'll keep building on that.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Our next question is from Matt Wenzel with M Live.
Hey, Scotty, I was wondering, with all the years you've been doing this, have you ever gone into spring ball with 2 linebackers who have played defensive snaps for you, given Antoine going to the NFL and the guys you lost to the portal?
Yeah, you know, every spring there, I think there's always a unique situation. I can't say there's been a time where there's been 2 guys. You know, I can't remember a time, but we've been in situations like that. You know, sometimes you'll have, you know, a shortage. It seems like in spring, you generally have a shortage somewhere. You know, it's hard to be on a team that you have, okay, yeah, we have, you know, 8 quality, you know, sometimes you'll be like, we got 3 defensive ends, period. You know, let's try to move some bodies, and you make stuff up and you steal some linebackers or whatever. But we've been in those situations before, and you just manage it the best you can. You know, you give those guys reps. And the good news is when those things happen is the young guys get a ton of reps and they get a chance to learn and grow, and you build some depth doing those things. So sometimes it's a positive for you, because, you know, as we're moving in new guys that we get, you know, in that position group, you know, those guys are going to need reps too. And some of these reps are going to have to stick, and some of the young guys in that room are getting more reps now, you know, than they might in the fall. And hopefully you're building some depth going through that.
kind of a similar outlook at cornerback with Shakur off to the NFL, and you get Kalen back and Angelo playing in the nickel spot. I'm wondering what the outlook is for that position, given, you can't talk about the guys coming
Sure.
later, but just kind of the overall outlook and where that nickelback spot fits with the guys you got come back.
The nickel, Michael Dowell's been playing there some too, and he's a guy that's got a lot of experience. And when you boil it down, you look at some of the better players on the field. Him and X really played the same spot quite a bit last year, and then he played that spot, when guys got nicked up or we got to a bigger personnel. So he had some experience there. You know what I mean? So we do have some guys that can be able to slide around, and as we do get some of the new corners, on the field, we're hoping to, that's some of the. As you look at it going back, some of the deal where you're looking at saying, okay, how can we keep it easy for certain position groups? We add stuff in, but leave that spot so that, hey, when guys get here this summer, when the new guys come in, that they can grow and build and try to keep this consistent and try to keep those guys up to speed and make it easy for them, and Michael Dowell's done a really good job there too. So, we're excited about, moving forward and getting some more depth and adding some more people and doing some more things there.
Thanks, Scotty.
Our next question is from Matt Charbonneau with the Detroit News.
Matt Wenzel stealing my cornerback questions. Thanks a lot, Matt. But the other thing I was going to, it's like you have these holes at corner and at linebacker right now that you're working on. But then you look at the defensive line and you've got guys like Panasiuk back and Beasley back, some guys that have played a lot of snaps at tackle. And then you add guys like Drew Jordan, the grad transfer. It's like it feels like now up in that unit up there, you've got the opposite, where now you have some competition and guys kind of pushing for those spots. Are you seeing that already in the spring, that's maybe lifting that level of play a little bit up there?
No doubt. No doubt. I think that, the more guys that you have that can step on the field and play, the more it pushes them all. And the cool thing is those guys take it as what it is. Hey, we got to compete every day, and we got to continue to try to get better each day, because if I slip, you know what I mean? Or if they mess up or they do, you can just go like this, hey, go, and that's the best way to motivate guys a lot of times, is just get them to be able to say, hey, there's another dude right here that can play. And the cool thing is they're learning and they're growing together, and the bar gets raised a little, because they'll see someone do something that, oh man, that was a good play, and they all see that. And then I'm going to try to make that play too. And if you can elevate that bar just a little bit every day by someone doing something that they go, wow, that was, that's what you're really looking for. And then a lot of spring too is, hey, we do have some depth there. So we might be able to use guys in even better than we did last year. You might not have it gets to 2 minutes and here's a guy that's taken 28 reps already in the first half, and now he's got to go take a 2-minute drive and be able to rush like crazy. You might be able to slide guys in and out and use that depth or limit the amount of reps that they play at the same time, so that we can play faster up front more often and for a longer period of time, because you can get in and out if as long as the offense lets you get in and out, I suppose. Right. Yeah.
And the other thing too, is like we talked about the turnover on the holes you have to fill there too, but you do have a unique spot there on the defense, I think, where you've got guys like Xavier Henderson and Beasley and Panasiuk, and guys that have played a lot, even Noah Harvey a decent amount, guys with some of that leadership. It's kind of an interesting balance where how much does that experience of those guys help, even when you have these other new faces kind of coming in at the same time?
Well, the good news is those guys that you mentioned, are really guys, and I even throw Michael Dowell in there. He's played a lot of ball for us too, but those guys are good and naturally have some leadership qualities to them. You know what I mean? You can even see with the new guys who are on campus now, or as they're coaching the younger players, is seeing them and taking them underneath their wing and teaching them what their routines are, how they watch tape, what they look for when they're doing things, hey, well, let's go sit down with a young guy and watch practice with them. Or even a guy like Drew Jordan, who came from Duke, you know what I mean? Like Beasley and Kuba will grab him and come on, let's all get in there and watch some of this stuff together, so that he can learn and they can trade ideas and things like that. So you're right. It's really cool. And we're going to need that moving forward. We're going to need that this summertime too, because there's certain times we can't be around the guys, and there's going to be times when, strengths that have, and we're going to need some of that stuff where they're going to have to self-coach each other. And we do. The quality is, and the good thing is we have some leadership in each room with the guys that you mentioned, and they can help the guys coming on campus out.
Thanks, Scotty. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Our next question is from Chris Solar, the Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Scotty, good to see you. Wondered about Mel had mentioned and alluded to maybe playing more dime coverage this year. What are the challenges that you face right now with the limited bodies in the secondary, and plus with the linebacker core? I mean, is there a challenge to even try and work on that kind of stuff, or do you have to kind of just mold what you're installing right now based on the personnel you have right now?
Well, you know, we try to, when you're planning it, you try to be able to say, okay, here's some things that are the same as, you know, like if a nickel does this skill in a different coverage, let's say, you know what I mean? And then you want to take him in and put him in it as, you know, say your will linebacker when you get to some dime stuff. You know, as long as you can say, hey, listen, he already learned this skill in this coverage at nickel, or if I was a strong safety and I learned this blitz and this, as long as it's the same as, and as long as you can stack some of the same as, it's not as hard to take pieces and place them in there. You know, if you got a guy like Michael Dow, who's played some strong safety, played some nickel, you know, dual, and then you say, hey, listen, you're going to go over here and play. You're just going to limit. You just have to, as a coordinator and as you're building the defense, say, okay, he knows how to do this skill. He knows how to play this. He knows how to play this. Okay, so we got 4 things that we can do. Okay, now without messing him up mentally, we got to figure out, you know, this is a huge part of what he needs to do. So he can already run these, you know, say 4 coverages. You know, you can do that. You can do that tomorrow or the next, whatever the case. And that's really what we try to look at doing, which is some of the reason why we're saying, okay, hey, there's certain positions right now as we go through that, say, wait, listen, they're going to learn these skills and that's what they're going to do. You know, because we know that new guys are going to take those jobs. You know what I mean? We're looking for guys to come in and be able to play there as fast as we can and work like crazy to get on the field at those spots, you know? And to do that, we got to make sure that stays consistent and it's not adding layers to it. But there's other guys who we can say, okay, he knows how to, well, now if you just change where he aligns and does the same thing, that's easy. That's easy. And then you can get to some of those things. You can get more multiple. You can do more things with more people.
I know you mentioned about Michael a little bit, and I know Brandon Wright switched positions. Have you been able to pluck anybody else over to kind of help fill some of those gaps, or has anybody been out injury-wise that you kind of needed to fill for it as well?
No, I mean, you know, I mean, you get your regular old nicks and bruises, whatever, during spring ball, but it's been pretty good, you know. We made it through, you know, the young guys, like we said, in the back end, in the back 7, really, the young guys are getting a ton of reps, which is great, you know, which is building depth and those kind of things. And they've been running and working and staying around. So it's been good, but no, we haven't stole anybody else from offense. You know, we've been working through and saying, listen, we got some young guys we signed, and hopefully we get some other guys on campus here too. And those guys, we have to be able to plug in and keep it easy enough for them to play.
Our next question is from Jamal Spencer.
Scotty, good to see you again. I don't think I
Nice
talked to you since Fargo. I know you touched on this a little bit already. Going back to guys like Chad Wilson and Preston Evans, you've always needed that leader at the linebacker spot. You know, I know Antoine Simmons was that guy for you a year ago. It's not just about the production, as you mentioned. You know, it's about the leadership qualities. As spring is continuously developing, you see one guy stepping into that leadership role of being able to be the guy to rally everyone together.
You know, I right now, we're trying to develop that a little bit. I think that comes sometimes that there's that one guy, like you talked about, some of the guys you talked about, they were that way the minute they walked into the room as a young man. You know what I mean? And we'll see some of that as we keep recruiting and see a guy walk in the room that's going to have those qualities. But I think other guys, it needs to be bred a little bit. You know, you need to influence. You need to give them permission. Like, hey, here we go, man. This is it's our team. What are we going to do with that? And some of the guys have done a good. Like, I think Noah Harvey's done a great job. You know what I mean? He's in a position where he might not be the guy that you see like the Ray Lewis type that's going to like has the ability to go scream and discipline the defense like some of those guys did. But he's also doing a good job in being able to grab a guy and say, hey, come here. Hey, we don't do that like that. Or do those things. You know, X is another guy who's done a great job. And really it's kind of a layered deal. You know what I mean? You got guys like like Beasley's done a really good job up front, and coming back for another year, you know, we're really excited, and he's done a really good job grabbing some, and you know, and even, you know, one young guy who would be good is Jeff Petrosky. He's a guy that his effort and his tempo and all those things up front, you know what I mean? He goes hard, and the guys up front respect that guy for what he does. So now he's starting to be able to say, hey, and we're trying to empower everybody to be able to say something, because you know, like when you're playing ball, you know something's right or wrong. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a first, you know, day on the job guy that's looking out there and you see a dude pull a guy's jersey, you can, hey man, we can't be pulling jersey, you know what I mean? Or hey, if a guy jumps off, everybody should be on that dude. That's a lack of discipline thing. And so, you know, we have some guys who are developing, like Noah, yes, you know, X, yes, Michael Dow, yeah, you know, we got some guys who are stepping up into that role. Do we have a dominant guy? Like, I don't know if we're there yet, but it's growing, and hopefully the whole unit is growing, and that's really what we're looking for, because, you know, you don't have to be perfect to say something. You know, you don't. You just have to be willing to serve and have a willingness to get as good as you can be. And if you can say something, you know, and everyone knows when, you know, even if you told me, hey, you're doing it, yeah, I'm doing it wrong. Jeez, you know, I know that, man. You know, that okay, I need to get right. I mean, anyone can say that to anybody, and hopefully we're all growing in those qualities together. But yeah, back to your question, I guess, is Noah, X, you know, Michael Dow, those are some of the guys up front, you know what I mean? I mean, a guy like Jacob Slade's doing a good job, you know what I mean, leading the D tackle room. You know, Beasley's, he's doing a good job in the D, and Petro, you'd be surprised, you know, Gerv's really talking to the corners much. So those guys have done a good job, but it's been a little bit more positionally than the whole unit.
Hey, Scottie, what's the dynamic like working for Mel, especially a person who has been in your position before as a defensive coordinator?
You know, it's great, really. He's a guy that adds input, and like, he's a guy that, you know, first of all, you know, he's an exceptional man, and that's what some of the reason why I came here in the first place. You know what I mean? He's great to be around. He helps you. He's trying to do right. He's trying to get this, you know, the program in the right direction. He's trying to, you know, his vision is outstanding. So that's what's cool for us as coaches. You know what I mean? His big picture, and hey, this is what I want to look like, and then allows us to work towards that goal to help him. So that's really cool. The second part is the cool thing about having a defensive head coach is there's sometimes when you're like, man, this is an issue, or or hey, you got a guy that bounce ideas off. You know what I mean? You can go to Coach Tuck and say, hey, have you ever done this? And he'll say, no, but we did it like this. And it might trick a brainstorm idea, something, you know, you did 10 years ago that you'd say, oh yeah, we did it. Okay, yeah, that, and it fires those things and helps you out. Whether it's game planning or just going through some base fundamentals or whatever the case is. You know, the other thing that's cool is this. Like we were talking about earlier, there's times when you get in the heat of battle and you're watching play after play after play after play, and you're seeing this and you're writing notes and you're trying to keep everything, but you miss sometimes the obvious that's right there. You know, and he might walk in and say, hey, did you guys notice this? This guy right here is doing boom. And you'll say, yeah, you know, and those are the cool things that you have, just someone to be able to see through your same eyes, or notice something that's a little bit different, or notice something that you haven't noticed that you can easily fix and correct. And now you're better, you know, so that's been really cool dealing with that.
How much would you say he's involved in your kind of just, you know, I guess in practice, I mean, overseeing that side, or is he, because of his, focus on defense, is he more interested in what the offense is doing? I mean, how does he kind of advise practice in that sense?
No, I think he goes through. I mean, his vision of practice is one that, hey, it's about the process. You know what I mean? It's about doing the little things. It's about doing that. So that's really what he's on. And it doesn't matter what side of the ball you're on or special teams. You know, he's involved in every facet of it, where he's coaching guys and running around and trying to do those kind of things. And I wouldn't say he leans towards one side of the ball or the other. You know, he's just there saying, listen, he sees things that are good and he sees things that are bad. And those things together are the things that he tries to address as much as he can.
And lastly, obviously coming from the Big 12, what was that change like to the Big 10? Do you see a lot of what the Big 12 was doing in the Big 10? I mean, is the Big 10 adjusted more towards that, or is it, do you have to be a little bit more, I guess, versatile from a defensive standpoint?
Yeah, I think that it's relative. I think that, I think that every conference has its own unique flavor a little bit. You know what I mean? I think that the Big 10 is definitely more of a physical conference than the Big 12, as you look at it. But you do have to be, you do have to be a little bit able to adjust, because there's some teams in our league that do the same stuff. You know what I mean? They're going to go up tempo. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to push the ball. So as you talk about versatility, yeah, I think it's a fine balance, and and really with that, you just got to lean the calls one way or the other, depending on the week, I think that college ball is really college ball right now. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of teams that are not going fast sometimes, that are not going up tempo sometimes, that are not afraid to take shots and draw some stuff up that you go, wow, where did that come from? You know what I mean? I think that's the benefit about being in college, as over the NFL or whatever else.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Coach, we really appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah.
We got to get to a meeting, so we'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thanks for the time, guys. Nice seeing y'all.